Welcome to this special edition of Exploring Idaho. I'm Dee Sarton, and we are about to travel together to every corner of this great state. When the next hour is over, you'll know what the locals know about all the special things to see and do border to border. There are 7 regions of Idaho, each with its own personality, but everywhere you go, you will find incredible scenery and friendly, easygoing people anxious to help you explore. All you have to do now, though, is sit back and take it all in as we begin our journey in Idaho's Panhandle. This area is best known for its huge, shimmering lakes. No greater concentration of lakes can be found in any other western state. The biggest of them all is Lake Pend Oreille, one of the most beautiful lakes in the world. Lake Coeur d'Alene is equally stunning and offers great fishing, too. Any rockhound will tell you this is where the precious gemstone, the star garnet, is found. It's one of the reasons Idaho is nicknamed the Gem State. You can ride the world's longest gondola at Silver Mountain year-round. And in the winter, skiers can delight in the deep powder of the Bitterroot Mountains.
Beautiful!
But you know, skiing isn't the only way to enjoy Idaho snow. Grab a snowmobile, a picnic lunch, and head for the historic mining town of Wallace. If you're driving on I-90 and happen to look down at this quaint old mining town, you might think, that looks like a nice place for a Sunday drive. Well, take a Sunday drive if you like, but be sure to take it on your snowmobile. Wallace is one of the few towns in the country where your snowmobile is as welcome as your station wagon on city streets. You'll be treated to house after house of turn-of-the-century architecture. It's almost as if this town is frozen in time. The entire city of Wallace is listed with the National Historical Register. And while snowmobiling through the center of town may be a unique experience, the area surrounding Wallace has even more to offer.
We got lots of trails to run on. Head to the trails, boys.
Yes, from Wallace you can head for the hills and ride some 600 miles of snowmobile trails. But make no mistake, this is no Sunday drive. Today's snowmobiles can easily cruise along at 60 miles per hour, but there aren't enough hours in a day to cover all the trails in this magnificent country. Locals say it's America's last snowmobile frontier.
It's wonderful. There's nothing more wonderful than riding along a ridge and you look out and you can see elk or moose and beautiful sunshine, mountains as far as you can see. It's just a real feeling of freedom. A real spirit of freedom.
And when you find a snow bowl to play in, you'll probably have it to yourself. Crowds aren't a part of the scenery here.
You feel like you're floating, powder that's 2-3 feet deep. It's just the feeling of flying.
Most days end with friends and family gathered around a warm fire. Wallace residents hope you'll agree, it was a day well spent.
I think the most unique thing about Wallace is the spirit. We have a spirit of Idaho, a spirit of toughness and survival, but a spirit of sincerity and friendliness. When people come here, they want a chance, to maybe touch something that they haven't felt in a long time.
As the snow melts and the sound of snowmobiles fades, the trails of North Idaho take on a new character. Horsepower becomes pedal power as mountain bikers crisscross the peaks. An old railroad bed offers one of the best adventures through tunnels and over trestles high in the Bitterroot Mountains near the Idaho-Montana border. Countless miles of biking trails crisscross Idaho's Panhandle National Forest. This area is a wonderful natural playground for mountain bikers. Some trails are more advanced than others, but even a novice peddler can enjoy the Loop Creek Trail. The trail is actually an old abandoned railroad bed that winds for 13 miles through some gorgeous high mountain country.
Okay guys, this is one of the more scenic places you're gonna see. Right now we can see the 3 biggest trestles. Remember this when we get to the big trestles, you guys. They may look small from here, but when you get on them, they're huge.
But to get there from here, you'll have to follow the railroad grade through several deep, dark tunnels. For many, this adds a little more intrigue to the ride.
This is 966 feet and the darkest tunnel. Turn your lights on. The tunnels are definitely their own adventure when you're going through them. The first thing you feel is it's much colder. You can feel a little bit of breeze coming through. You can see a pinhole of light at the very end.
What a thrill to go through, 8 to 9 tunnels on the trail system. I don't know of any place else that has this experience, and can give you this scenery, the incredible beauty.
There are 8 more tunnels to brave and 9 trestles to cross on this leg of the trail. The most impressive trestle towers 400 feet above a small canyon.
This is the Clear Creek Trestle. It's the crown jewel of the ride, in my opinion. It's the highest and longest trestle on the whole ride.
As you start out across the trestle, you can look up the ridge and see where you've been, but don't look too long because you'll want to keep your eyes on the road. The adventurous crossing is worth the effort as the beautiful scenery opens up before you.
It's a pretty invigorating feeling, definitely a feeling of freedom. You get up there and you feel like you're on top of the world.
Trestles and tunnels, along with the lore of railroad's heyday, make this trip a one-of-a-kind experience. And those lucky enough to try it will be coming back for more.
It's kind of dark and spooky, but at the same time, awesome. Something you can just do over and over again and never get tired of it.
There's very little access to this area without that railroad grade. And with that, just about anyone can get back there and see the beauty of the area and just the quiet. When you're up on those trestles and all you can hear is the stream, several hundred feet down below. It does marvelous things for the soul.
Can you believe what a great trail system that is? And as you can see, winter or summer, North Idaho has something for everybody. Coming up next, we're going to head down south just a bit to the rivers of north central Idaho. In the early 1800s, Lewis and Clark were the first white men to visit north central Idaho, and they had one word to describe this area so full of natural beauty. They called it simply paradise, and today it is still an unspoiled region. It's a place of pristine rivers. You can try your favorite fly on the lock saw, or experience some of the country's best whitewater on the lower salmon. And there's nothing like catching a steelhead on the Snake or Clearwater rivers. The peaks of the Seven Devils tower high enough to overlook 4 states. These mountains and rivers are the homeland of the Nez Perce Indians. Each year, horsemen retrace the historic journey of Chief Joseph during the tragic War of 1877. From the Nez Perce to the early pioneers, there are many stories of hardship and determination, but probably one of the most interesting stories in the history books of north central Idaho involves the homesteaders who endured the challenge and also the isolation of Hell's Canyon. See what I mean as we take a look at the history of this remote area along the Idaho-Oregon border. The steep, rocky walls of Hell's Canyon are spectacular. The rugged landscape has been shaped by time and the turbulent waters of the Snake River, and now in some places, it's the deepest river gorge in North America. The first humans eventually entered this area thousands of years ago.
This is a place where people could come in the winter, doesn't snow often. It's a wintering area for big game. The river had abundant fish runs. The fish ran up these tributary streams. It just has everything going for it in terms of a place to be.
In more recent history, homesteads were established in the canyon during the early 1900s. They tried to scratch out an existence here, raising cattle or sheep near the more gentle benches along the river.
By about 1890 or 1900, there are 150 families living in Hells Canyon. There's a couple of hard winters, I think around 1915, 1916, and by 1920, only 5% of those homesteaders are still here. So that gives you an idea how difficult it is. The government bet you 160 acres that you couldn't make it in Hells Canyon, and by and large, they turned out to be right.
But Kirkwood Ranch was one of the few homesteads which was successful, and it remains in the canyon today. Now it's managed and preserved by the U.S. Forest Service. It's a great example of the rich heritage which can be found in the canyon. The ranch started with a small cabin built here in 1885 by Dr. J. Kirkwood from Grangeville. In the early 30s, at the height of the Depression, Len Jordan and his wife Grace and their 3 children came to Kirkwood to run a sheep ranch. Just imagine the hardship of daily life in the canyon. Miles of mountainous terrain separated you from your nearest neighbor. It was not uncommon to go months without seeing another person. Nearly 10 years of hard work in the canyon prepared Len Jordan for his next undertaking. You see, after leaving Kirkwood, he went on to become governor of Idaho and later a U.S. Senator. Ace Barton knows all about Len Jordan and many other Hells Canyon stories. Ace, a third-generation homesteader in the canyon, recalls what life was like here.
It was tiresome work, but it was good work. I mean, it was all outdoors. That was the main thing. Everything you done, I guess, was a hard way, but if we didn't know any better, why, it didn't seem all that hard. There was all kinds of, at that time, all kinds of wild game and plenty of everything. I liked the solitude of it. Sun hitting the peaks, you know, in the early morning, and the smell of the moisture off of the river. You can look 100 times at that hillside over there. You'll see something different that you hadn't noticed before. Maybe it's just the way the light is or something. It makes you appreciate nature a little better, I think, to see how it operates.
Hells Canyon is a special place for the hardy breed of men and women who made this wilderness a home. And though most are now gone, if you listen in the quiet solitude, you can still share a moment in time with those who came this way before. From the Kirkwood Ranch in Hells Canyon, it's about a 3-hour drive to Kamei in the lush Clearwater Valley. There you will find the Nez Perce National Historic Park. In the spring, this park is a haven for songbirds and bird watchers.
You just can't believe the number of birds and the kinds of birds that are here. There's a pair of rough-wings on a limb there near the edge of the slough.
For wildlife biologist Dan Davis, there's no place he'd rather be than the Clearwater River Valley near Kamei.
See what else we can find here this morning. There's an American goldfinch. Some of them winter over here, but they migrate in.
Every spring, this area becomes a bird watcher's paradise. That means Dan will be spending many long hours looking through his scope for a closer look at the numerous birds and other wildlife that live here.
As a matter of fact, we might even be able to see a beaver or muskrat.
For Dan and many others, this is a very special place. Lolita Brown is an avid bird watcher and an historian for the city of Kamei. When she looks out over this river valley, her imagination takes her back in time.
I come out here to feel a kinship with an Indian lad who might have sat on this rise and watched the ducks on the river, the geese flying by, the great blue herons. It really gives you a feeling of walking in the past, because there's an awful lot of history, an awful lot of both Indian and non-Indian history in this valley.
You'll even find interesting notations about this area in the journals of Lewis and Clark. In the spring of 1806, the explorers spent many days with the Indians here, preparing for their journey home. In his journal, Lewis makes reference to the river and woodlands where bear and deer could be found. There's so much to appreciate in this unspoiled landscape. From its enchanting history to the cool river and its beautiful songbirds.
To me, they mean color, they mean health, that the environment is healthy, that the air is clear, that there's something here for them, so there's something here for us as well.
Here, somehow, there's a remnant piece of the natural environment left, fully intact, as it was back then. And that experience comes through, just like when these hills, when you look at them, somehow, and it's hard to express, but somehow you get a feeling and a sense that they're talking to you, that you can hear the voices, you can hear the drums, and you can almost see the tents when Lewis and Clark stood right here.
What a difference between the Clearwater Valley and Hell's Canyon. Just goes to show you, you can travel a couple of hours in either direction and the landscape changes completely. That seems to be the case throughout the state. See what I mean as we visit Southwestern Idaho next. Southwest Idaho is home to Boise, our state's capital and largest city. And one thing people love about living in Boise is outdoor adventure is never far away. Just an hour from Boise is a whitewater mecca, the Payette River. It's a popular summertime hangout for the locals. A little further north, you can catch the sun and the breeze on Cascade Reservoir. To the south lies Bruneau Dunes State Park. Here you can see the tallest sand dunes in America. And in the canyons of the Owyhee Desert, you may be lucky enough to see a group of bighorn sheep. Here you can find images of past lives etched in stone. The Paiute Indians left this silent record of their passing, and the scenery has changed little since then. The vast desert of this region can look a little deceiving at first, but it holds many secrets, like the Bruneau River, one of the most remote and least discovered whitewater rivers in North America. To reach the spectacular Bruneau River Canyon, you have to travel through a hot, dry desert. It's a journey of more than 50 miles over rough, dusty roads, and the last leg of the trip is especially difficult. But your efforts are finally rewarded with the sight of an oasis of lush green trees and the meandering river.
Just right down here, just below where we came in on the road, the canyon's going to close up really tight. Yeah. It'll be one of the prettiest parts of the whole trip.
As the towering volcanic formations surround the tiny rafts, you suddenly feel very small compared to the grandeur of the canyon. There is also the eerie sensation that there is no turning back. This remote desert river and these steep rock walls will separate you from the rest of the world for the next 45 miles.
You're pretty well stuck here. It's definitely one of my favorites, and it's partly because it's so scenic, but partly because of the isolation and the solitude that's available here.
The quiet solitude gives way to the sound of the fast-moving water of an approaching rapid. Here's where the skill of guide John Griffith is essential.
You just try to pick the best spot and slip through and get an oar in when you can. It's fun, you know, when it gets a little tight.
For a little more excitement, inflatable kayaks give you a one-on-one experience with the power of the Bruneau River.
On some of them, it's really just a tight squeeze, and it's just such a rush when you're going over the big rapids, you know.
There are only a few weeks out of the year that it's even safe to run this stretch. It requires experience, teamwork, and a grab onto your seat, go for it kind of attitude.
The Bruneau River Canyon, to me, is a very unique part of Idaho and a part of the country. It's the high mountain desert country. There's not very much of it left that's been undisturbed, so it's really a rare gem in the state. I'd love to see it protected forever.
Excellent whitewater rafting like that is the spring and summer bonus of a hefty winter snowfall. Some of the deepest and driest snow falls near McCall on Brundage Mountain. It's a powder hound's paradise. This is a side of Brundage Mountain not too many people get a chance to see. Far from the crowds on the groomed runs, this is snowcat country. Hundreds of acres of waist-deep powder, beckoning those who live to ski. But there are no chairlifts here. This snowcat is the sole means of transportation up the mountain. Call it an incredible journey, a most excellent adventure.
Powder straps, you find your ski.
No matter what you call it, there's just nothing like snowcat skiing.
Woo! Yeah!
Narrow chutes, wide open runs, the kind of powder that can challenge even the best of skiers. But you don't have to be a pro to try it. Even for a skier with basic ability, it doesn't take long to figure out. This is all right.
It's much like skiing in a cloud. It's very soft, it's very light, and you get that feeling of flying as you go down the fall line. Just a real peaceful feeling, and once you get away from the maddening crowds on the slopes and get out here, it really kind of changes your attitude about going back to work on Monday morning. You know, it really relaxes the soul and feeds the body.
Okay, yeah!
It's kind of the feeling of being out of bounds, the freedom of being away from the area, being able to enjoy and experience the beautiful scenery that we're in.
And in a setting like this, it's easy to drift away to another state of mind.
A lot of times I just turn my mind off. It's kind of neat just to react as you go down and you get the stimuli coming in of trees, rocks, snow. And so it's a lot of fun just to kind of go in high gear and start screaming and be unresponsible for a little bit of time.
It's a lot like flying. I just find it just natural, and it's just so clean and pristine, and you're floating out there. It's just like being in space, you know, weightless almost.
Really, it's great. Solitude, freedom between turns, the freedom of flying between each initial turn. It's great.
Well, it's about as good a high as you'll ever find, I'll tell you. Every morning I get up, I keep looking forward to the next turn. It's excellent.
This is what it's all about. This is what skiing's all about, right here.
Hey!
After a strenuous outing like that, you may be ready for something a little more mellow. So next, we'll take you on a boat ride through the Snake River Canyon as we visit South Central Idaho. I know you've seen colorful fields of wildflowers on postcards, but if you want to see the real thing, you need to visit South Central Idaho. And that's not all you'll see. Gaping canyons and roaring waterfalls all waiting for you there. But be sure to take a little extra time as you pass through. You'll want to take a closer look. The silent city of rocks is full of huge granite columns, some reaching 60 stories into the sky. It's a perfect playground for rock climbers. The immense Snake River Canyon is another dramatic landscape feature of this region, and the spectacular Shoshone Falls is sometimes called the Niagara of the West. From there, take a drive to the Hagerman Valley and follow the Thousand Springs scenic route. Catch a boat ride and you'll see up close waterfalls absolutely erupting from canyon walls.
On a scale of 1 to 10, this is 11. This is a real pretty waterfall here. And the main beauty is you can get so close to it and just feel the spray hitting you in the face. Bubbles up right out of the ground about 2 miles from here, and it's just a beautiful area. But the people really like it.
Russell Lemoyne of Thousand Springs Tours thinks this part of the Snake River Canyon is one of the most scenic places in Idaho. The area is named for the hundreds of beautiful artesian springs that flow from the canyon walls. These sparkling cascades are all part of a giant underground reservoir that flows for hundreds of miles through the Snake River Plain. The ancient basaltic lava flows that dominate this landscape are porous and act like a gigantic sponge capturing surface water. The waters pool to form a huge aquifer deep in the lava, emerging again at the sheer walls of the Snake River Canyon as it cuts through the underground river. This giant freshwater aquifer is thought to be one of the largest in the world.
This is a very good example of why the springs just bubble directly out from the canyon rim here. And this is one of the few breaks in the canyon here where it can actually be released and comes right out of the canyon wall and flows into the river. This is another part of the Thousand Springs area. This kind of has what I call a New Zealand appearance, where it comes through the trees and the greenery right here. It's very beautiful.
In addition to their beauty, these springs are very important to the ecosystem because they recharge the river with clear, purified water. A nearby island is a safe haven for a rookery of great blue herons.
Blue heron mate for life, and they reuse these nests year after year. This is one of my favorite stretches of the river. Come up here early in the morning, and there's lots of herons and waterfowl, ducks, and geese on the river. And it's just so peaceful up here.
Thousand Springs is a unique place where nature can be seen in all its glory. These cascading waters are a special gift for us all to enjoy. From Thousand Springs, it's just a short drive to the little town of Hagerman. Back in the 1920s, Hagerman became the center of scientific attention when the bones of a prehistoric horse were found nearby. Well, that led to many more discoveries, and scientists have been exploring here ever since. These high bluffs above the Snake River are jam-packed with fossils. That's why Congress created the Hagerman Fossil Beds National Monument in 1988. This area is being set aside to preserve the remarkable number and variety of fossil sites found here. Lying buried in sedimentary rock of the canyon rim are fossils eons old.
As we go from the top of the bluffs down to the river, each step that we take, we're actually going back in time. You can sort of think of it like a treasure hunt, because when you go out, you're never quite sure what you're going to run across. So you've got to keep your eyes open, and we spend most of our time looking at the ground. Yeah, you can see some more fossil bone on the ground right there. This bone sticking up right here is the tail vertebrae to a beaver. Well, this is a fragment of turtle shell. It's very interesting that a lot of the animal life that we find here at Hagerman are what you would expect in a wetland habitat. Desert now, but definitely a wetland area 3.5 million years ago.
Hagerman Valley was once a floodplain for a huge lake, equal in size to the modern-day Great Lakes. The ancient body of water known as Lake Idaho was filled with rich deposits of sediments from the ancestral Snake River. The vast flood that carved out the Snake River Canyon also unveiled the rare fossils buried deep within the Earth's sediments. The most significant is the horse, for which Hagerman Fossil Beds are most noted. In 1930, the Smithsonian Institute began excavation in the now famous Horse Quarry. Over 150 horse fossils were uncovered. That represents the largest single sample ever found. Though extinct now, the horse flourished in a mystical savanna-type environment. They shared this landscape with many animals similar to those we find living today. But the only clues to their existence lie buried in their fossilized remains.
The only way we can understand that history is the fossil record. And there's very few places like Hagerman that provide enough diversity to really understand what has happened through time.
By the way, access to the actual Hagerman Fossil Beds is limited, but there is a visitor center that you can visit anytime. Don't go away. We'll be exploring southeastern Idaho when we come back. Thousands of pioneers made their way through Idaho on the Oregon Trail. And in southeastern Idaho, you can still see the ruts made by their wagons as they journeyed to a new life. But history isn't the only thing you'll find in this region. You can also visit beautiful places like Bear Lake, home to a unique species of fish called the Bonneville Cisco. In the winter, you can catch them by the netful.
Oh, Craig, oh, all right, that's it.
Then warm up at Lava Hot Springs, a popular resort where you can soak in 110-degree pools. Or you could explore the ancient stalactites and stalagmites of Minnetonka Cave. As you travel through southeast Idaho, you'll probably meet a real cowboy. Old West traditions are very much alive here. As a matter of fact, one of the country's top rodeos is an annual event in Pocatello. The Dodge National Circuit Finals Rodeo has been held at Pocatello's Holt Arena for nearly a decade. And this year, all 7 reigning world champions are competing. Record crowds have turned out to see this great all-American sport. For these rough and tumble men, cowboying is a way of life. For one cowboy, this is a very special rodeo, his last. Charlie Sampson has been a professional rodeo cowboy for the past 16 years. A city boy, originally from Los Angeles, he stands only 5 foot 4 inches tall and tips the scales at only 130 pounds. This is an unlikely combination for a champion bull rider.
It takes a lot of years to be among the 15th best for the national finals, and I've been there 10 times. Even though this is my last professional rodeo, I feel great about it. I think this is it. This is the one I want to go out at.
Bull riding is the most dangerous of all the events held at a rodeo. That's why the clown bullfighter is so important. It's his job to put himself in danger's path and save a fallen cowboy.
We get paid to do a job, and my job is to step in between there.
What is it about the cowboys' will to ride and risk it all? Is it their spirit, their toughness, their heart? All of these and more make the American rodeo cowboy.
Come to a town where you're at a rodeo, you feel that you're at home. You know, so it's all one big happy family, and it just seemed like the most easiest going people in the world happens to be cowboys.
With a big heart below around the great Charlie Sampson.
I just thank God. I just thank God for giving me the courage, the determination, and just put me in this arena with the life that I enjoy. I got away safe. That's the way I want to go.
And after you've ridden all you can ride, there finally comes a time when you have to hang up your spurs. It's time for another cowboy to take center stage and carry on the legacy of the American West. Not to be outdone, the towns of Blackfoot and Shelley have their own yearly events. In Blackfoot, it's the World Potato Exposition, and in Shelley, it's the ever-popular Spud Days. And as John Miller shows us, it's one big potato celebration.
You're looking at the Pikes Peak of potatoes. In fact, some farmers around Blackfoot say it's the best crop in years, and that's good news here at the World Potato Expo.
Here is where we serve almost 200 people a day. Baked potatoes. Anyone from out of state gets a hot baked potato.
Free taters for out-of-staters like John and Joy Dorlack, who come all the way from Colorado.
Well, I've always known that Idaho was known for its potatoes.
Now the Dorlacks are finding out what we put on potatoes.
Cheese and broccoli.
And what we put potatoes in.
Chipper cherry, potato ice cream. We don't mean small potatoes here, we mean big business. There you go.
What's even more amazing than all these potatoes is all the people who come to see them. The Potato Expos had visitors from every state, most countries, even Fiji.
Bangladesh, no less.
Because the potato is a big deal out here.
This is the biggest deal in Idaho.
This may be the biggest batch of mashed potatoes ever made.
We're talking 800 pounds of dried potatoes, and when we add it with the water, we're going to have about 600 gallons.
Mix it in a large bowl.
Gonna make a real nice mess.
Dump it all over the ground. Sprinkle in a little public reaction.
Disgusting. Gross. Really gross.
Now everything's just about set.
Anybody got some gravy?
For the tater tug. It's at this point when you realize just how much we love our Idaho potatoes.
When they do them swan dives into the middle, it don't get no better than that. Pull! Come on, pull, baby!
It's hard to tell who's winning the tater tug. No one seems to care about getting creamed.
Here's your trophy, guys.
Or who wins, because the biggest part of this spud celebration is having fun, cutting loose, and getting carried away.
Yes, Idaho is known for its potatoes, but it's also known for its blue ribbon trout streams, and some of the best are in eastern Idaho, a land of rare beauty and solitude. We'll go there next. Eastern Idaho is fertile farming valleys and wild, untamed lands where mountain men and Indians used to rendezvous. It's still an uncrowded area where nature is at her best. From the majestic Teton Mountains at sunset to the cascading waters of Mesa Falls, this region is a rugged country where sled dog teams were often the main mode of transportation in winter. In fact, annual dog races are still held here today. In eastern Idaho, you can see all kinds of wildlife, from stately moose to endangered trumpeter swans. Gray's Lake is a prime nesting area for the sandhill crane, and the cool waters of Henry's Lake hold huge cutthroat trout. The South Fork of the Snake River is one of the few places left in the lower 48 where you can still catch wild cutthroat and brown trout. We hook up with some eager fishermen trying their luck on this incredible river.
Nice fish.
The thrill of catching wild, native trout is a fly fisherman's dream. This 55-mile stretch of the South Fork of the Snake River offers some of the best wild trout waters anywhere in North America.
All right, cutthroat trout.
It was really exciting. A lot of energy in this fish.
They fight better. They're a little bit smarter. Not as easy to outwit as a stock trout.
Fly fishing is a real skill. You have to get everything just right, from casting
right tight to the bank
to picking a fly the fish will bite.
I like fishing out of drift boats. Yesterday, for instance, we saw a lot of beautiful things that we otherwise would never be able to see.
You not only see a lot of wildlife while you're floating in a drift boat, you can get a line into those special spots where big fish hang out.
Woo! What a wonderful fish. Man, that's a nice fish.
I think that's about the biggest trout I ever caught. I know it's the biggest brown trout I ever caught for sure. We think it was about 21 inches, and it was really beautiful. Felt great, real strong.
This river valley is not only a great place to fish, it's a precious resource brimming with natural beauty and wildlife.
Look at this. Aren't they cute? Isn't that neat? Look at that little guy. I bet that mama's not too far away.
From seeing incredible wildlife to catching tough fish, the South Fork of the Snake offers fly fishermen a rare experience. An experience worth a journey of any distance.
It's the prettiest I've fished, and I've fished really a good many of the top western rivers and some in Alaska too. And this is just absolutely gorgeous. Gorgeous. I think I'll be coming back.
It's a beautiful river. It's just a wonderful place to be, a great office to work in. It's nice to have have people come out here and get to experience kind of what a real river should be and is.
While some people love pursuing fish, others would rather search for precious gems. And eastern Idaho is a good place for that. Any good rockhound knows Spencer Opal Mines is the best place to find them. Opals. Of all the precious gemstones, they are the most colorful. Their surface reflects every shade of the rainbow. Some people are so fascinated by the dazzling beauty of opals, they spend years searching for them. And that search has led many rockhounds to the Spencer Opal Mines.
What you're looking for when you're out here is this real glossy white material that looks like porcelain or milk glass. That's the common opal, and then you spray it off with your water bottle, and if you see the colors like the rainbow in there flashing back at you, that's the precious opal.
Oh, who found this one?
I fell falling down the side of the hill.
Oh, great.
I fell down a rock and there it was.
Oh boy, Andrew. See the fire in there? You can see it, can't you? See the red and the green? I'm going to keep this one for myself. You can't have it.
Look at this piece. Okay. That's got some potential. Can you see the colors in there?
Claudia Height has the keen eye of experience. She's been working this claim since 1967 when her family bought the mine. Starting at age 15, she's now spent more than half her life here.
Gotta watch your feet while you're walking. That's where you find them. This is one of the nodules, as we call them, of rhyolite where the opal forms.
These bubbles, frozen in stone, were formed by an ancient hot spring. The hot spring deposited mineral-rich water into cavities in the rock. Under the right conditions, these minerals formed the precious opals. It's such a rare occurrence, there are only 3 other areas like this in the U.S., and the Spencer Opal Mine is the largest.
Oh, wow, that's a nice one.
See that? That's a good one. It kind of gets in your skin. You get to be an opalholic, I think. You never know what's going to be behind the next rock, and that's what I love.
Isn't that pretty?
That's a good one.
For these people to just find anything with a little sparkle of color in it just makes your heart pound, and you just get really excited about it. To come up here and commercially mine by yourself would not be near as much fun as hearing, oh, look at this one I found, or come look at this one. So that's really what makes it the best part. We look for these color layers in here. That's the precious opal, and that's what we will take back to the shop and make a gemstone out of. This is a real high quality stone. It has good brilliance, it has good color combination, it's got all the colors of the rainbow when you roll it around.
These opals from Spencer are some of the most beautiful in the world. Rockhounds who make the long trip to this sleepy little town don't go home disappointed. Opal is called the Queen of Gems. I think you can see why. Next, we're going to head to the heart of the state and see what some people call the most beautiful mountain range in Idaho, the Sawtooths. Now, we have our sights set on central Idaho, and you might say we've saved some of the best scenery for last. Here you'll find a world-class ski resort, the state's highest peak and most famous mountain range. Central Idaho is home to Sun Valley, America's first destination ski resort. Modeled after resorts in the Swiss Alps, it has attracted celebrities and skiers from around the world. In stark contrast to Sun Valley are the barren black lava fields at Craters of the Moon National Monument. The twisted spatter cones and piles of volcanic rock form an eerie landscape. And if you feel like getting wet, take a ride on the famous Upper Salmon. It's one of the few undammed waterways in the country, and it's an outstanding river for rafting. Central Idaho is home to massive Mount Bora, the tallest in the state. And of course, this is where you'll also find America's Alps, the Sawtooth Mountain Range. They have been called the jagged jewels of Idaho. The granite spires of the Sawtooth Mountains dominate the sky in every direction. Emerald blue lakes dot the lush pine forest. There are over 300 miles of trails here, leading you to incredible sights. It takes a little effort to get to this remote backcountry. Some people ride in on horses. Others hike in, carrying heavy backpacks. But yet another way to reach the high country is gaining in popularity. Llama packing.
I know people my age that have families that used to backpack, and they've quit doing it because they can't take all the kids, they can't take the gear they need. But llamas give you that opportunity.
These llama packing families are on the trail to Hell Roaring Lake. It's one of the many high mountain lakes nestled in the granite peaks of the Sawtooth National Recreation Area.
Beautiful!
It doesn't get any better than this. Got our buddies, the view, good weather. Guess this is what it's about.
The rocky Finger of Fate spire is impressive. To its left is the silhouette of the Arrowhead Formation.
Look, you sure can tell why they call that birthday cake with those trees on top.
Up here, you can't help but relax. There's no one else around, no phones, no interruptions. It seems the only concern is whether the fish will bite.
It's quiet, peaceful. You get to hear the waterfalls that are hidden in the gullies, the creek running, the changes in the clouds and the sun bring different light on the peaks. And you don't get that feeling when you're driving by in a car.
Llamas make pristine areas like this available to children and their families. It's a special experience for everyone. These trips make lasting memories.
You can't get anything better for kids, I don't think, than to get them out here with family and you know, these times are special.
When we're down in the valley and we get so caught up in our jobs, we tend to believe that we live to work. But that's not the case. What we should do is maybe work to live and take that time to enjoy what Idaho has to offer.
Winter offers another great way to enjoy the backcountry. Trade in your hiking boots for Nordic skis. Some of the state's best cross-country trails are near Galena Summit.
Is everybody in front of me? No.
In this part of the country, Mother Nature does her thing in a big way. A big storm the night before buried the Galena Ski Lodge. The deep drifts of fresh snow that blanket the forest glisten in the morning sun. Grooming sleds are already working to prepare miles of trail for backcountry adventurers. Before long, Janet Kellum and a small group of friends are gliding over the new snow.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's powder skiing, packed powder, and the trees, you can see, it's just gorgeous. It turns it into a winter wonderland and the magic of winter. That's why we're all here. We're just about at the yurt. It's just right at the edge of those trees up there, and it blends right in because it's white too, so a lot of people ski right by it, don't even see it.
The group is headed for one of several yurts you'll find along the trails here. Now, yurts are backcountry huts where skiers can find warmth and comfort.
Time for lunch.
Combined with cross-country, you have yurt skiing, a sport that is growing more popular every year.
Home sweet home.
Yeah.
All over Idaho, there's little yurt systems speckled around. Idaho is really the birthplace of backcountry yurts in the winter. You can live outside in the winter and be completely comfortable. All the comforts of home, but peace and quiet. No phones, no fax machines, no noise. And that's what people have always loved about Galena. It's a wonderful place to get into the mountains and to reconnect with the mountains that are around them. You come out here and you forget about the rest of the world. It's really peaceful and you tune into things. You see what else is going on. You spend time with your friends and it's a special place.
As you can see, any season in Idaho is a wonderful time to visit. Idaho is one of those special places with new and exciting things to discover in every corner. You can still get away from it all and explore lands where few other people have ventured. And one of the great things about living here is all these adventures are waiting right out your back door. I hope you've enjoyed Exploring Idaho with us. Thanks for going along on the trip. And now we're going to leave you with a look at some of the wildlife we've encountered during our travels. Here's how you can get more information on the places we just visited on this special edition of Exploring Idaho. Call 1-800-443-2461 and ask for the field notes for show number 122.